Okay, I feel a bit silly doing this. I don't really talk a lot in my videos, but I wanted to try something different, and I hope you can hear me. I hope this is working. But I feel very self-conscious doing this because I'm in a park and I look very silly, but that isn't gonna stop us today. Being back in London for uni has got me thinking a lot about the people in my life. I think it's because I've been seeing a lot of my friends recently, and just like the conversations I've been having with them has inspired this video. I wanted to talk a bit about people coming and going and the kind of role that plays in our life. I think this kind of constant loss and gain of people, this inflow and outflow of people, this like change of people, of things, of everything is a core part of being human. The question I ask myself a lot is, how do we come to terms with this constant inflow and outflow of people in our lives? I think when it comes to loss, it's a very hard thing to fully accept in whatever form it takes. And I think the reason why it's so hard is because you're grieving a loss. It doesn't matter kind of what form that takes. It could be the passing of somebody, or it could just be losing a friendship. In any of those situations where you're experiencing a loss, you're going to grieve. I don't feel like we ever really stop grieving the loss of things, but I think we learn to kind of move forward with that grief anyway. And I think grief, when we really kind of deconstruct the feeling, it is just love in a disguised form. When it comes to moving forward and being okay with that kind of inflow and outflow of people, it's about looking at that grief as the love that it is. I know that everyone kind of has different ways of explaining the loss of people in their lives, whether that be like a religious reason, a spiritual reason, perhaps, I don't know, any other reason. For me personally, I choose to believe that there is a lesson in every experience that I have, but especially when it comes to people leaving my life in whatever way and the loss, I choose to try and focus on what I can learn from that experience. And I don't think that comes quickly. I don't think that comes easily. I think that is, in fact, the hardest part of loss, trying to understand how to move forward from it and what to kind of take from that. And I don't think that is instant in any situation. In terms of dealing with loss, I think, like I said, we all kind of have our own ways of dealing with it, and I don't think it's something that ever really gets easier the more that we experience it. I saw this quote on Instagram, I think it was, and it went something like, "Good things come and go, but they come." And it really stuck with me because I think when it comes to the kind of inflow part of the inflow and outflow of people in our lives, it's important to remember that people are always coming into our lives. And I think sometimes we forget that is an option. I know for me, in the past year, I've experienced a lot of loss in many different ways, and I kind of lost sight of the fact that doesn't mean that people aren't going to still come into my life. It sounds like quite an obvious thing, I'm saying this and I'm kind of stating the obvious, but I think sometimes we lose sight of that. I think that it's less about whether or not good things are going to come into our life and more about whether we are willing to allow ourselves to see that good things are going to come into our life and are in our life already. Especially when you're in a period of life where you're experiencing a loss, it's really hard to focus on the things that you do have and the people that you do have and be grateful for all of that, because you're so fixated on what you don't have. For me, at least, what I found to be helpful when trying to deal with loss, but also just coming to terms with this kind of constant change in my life in terms of the people that are in it, is focusing on what I do have and being grateful for that, and expressing that gratitude, which I think is a hard thing to do, and I don't claim that I do it perfectly all the time. And I think another important thing is the relationship that we have with ourselves. Part of coming to terms with the inflow and outflow of people in our lives and that constant change that sometimes feels like it's against our will, is having a good relationship with yourself, and you being the constant in your life and you being there for yourself. Because when we can be the constants in our own life, it won't matter who's coming in and who's coming out, and we can kind of be detached in that sense, but not detached in the sense that we are careless or unemotional towards things, but more in the sense that we don't let other things control how we feel about our own life. Again, I'm not claiming that I'm perfect at this, nor that I've mastered this, but it's something that I'm working on. I think when I can achieve that and I feel secure enough in my relationship with myself, it won't matter who comes and goes in my life, because I can be appreciative of it all and also know that I have myself to fall back on, and I'm always there for myself. To kind of summarize, I guess, things that I've been talking about, I think what it really comes down to is the way that we view things, the way that we construct change, loss, inflows and outflows of people, the way that we construct and conceptualize those things in our head. I try to believe that everything that comes into my life and also everything that leaves my life is a gift, and there's always something to take from those experiences. And for me, that is the way that I come to terms with that change and find comfort in the discomfort of the uncertainty. People are always coming and going in our life, and I think it is such a gift to have that constant change, to have that constant opportunity to meet new people, to discover new things about other people, the world, but also ourselves. I've learned so much about myself through the connections I've had with every person in my life, and it doesn't matter the depth of that. I think overall, I don't know that there's ever really a way that we can be comfortable with the idea of people coming and going, especially when we don't necessarily want people to leave, but we know that it's best for us, or we don't have any control over whether they're leaving and whether they want to be in our lives or whether they can be in our lives. And I don't think it's necessarily about finding comfort in that idea, but more finding comfort internally and looking within to find solace with this constant change that is going on around us, not only with the people in our lives, but just in general in life. And that's something that I'm working on. I'm trying to consolidate my thoughts in one sentence, but it's really hard to say because there's just I am scratching the surface of things that you could say regarding this topic. I don't aspire to find comfort or be fully accepting of the fact that people are coming and going in my life, but more so finding a way to detach myself in the sense that it doesn't affect me as much. I don't let it affect me as much because of the security that I have in the relationship with myself. That's my goal. And yeah, I hope that someday I can look back at this and feel that I've made progress towards that goal.